Hey guys, it's Graham from 613 Equipment Rentals. In my previous video, I mentioned that I would be doing a 350-hour review of the SCL1000, and I finally taken the opportunity and found some time to put this video together. The main reason I wanted to make this video was to share my experience with this machine, and from the beginning, including where I purchased it, how much I paid for it, and my experiences. So I brought a cheat sheet just so I didn't miss anything, and I'll rip through my notes as we go through here. Now, when I was looking to buy this machine, I was scouring the internet, and as it's relatively new to the market, there wasn't much out there, so I figured I'd put something out there so it can be a resource for anyone looking into the mini skid steer market. The first thing I'd like to talk about is price. I bought this machine in April 2024 up here in near Ottawa, Canada. I bought it from Huckabones in Cobden. The price was $48,000 plus tax, and I purchased approximately $6,000 worth of implements, which was auger, bits, extensions, and so on. Now with Kubota, they have all sorts of financing opportunities, so 1 through 5 year financing terms, and you can explore what the interest rates and what options fit best for you. Let's talk about the power of the machine for a minute. I believe it's just under 25 horsepower. And it's certainly not a full-size skid steer. It can't do the same thing, can't lift the amounts that a full-size skid steer can. But because it's so narrow, 36 inches wide, this machine provides a lot of flexibility in terms of getting to small backyards or narrow spaces where you're just tired of digging by hand, or the soil conditions are awful, such as clay, and you just want a machine that can assist you with that. The bucket capacity is okay, and its ability to dig into the ground is pretty decent. If you just wedge your bucket at a good angle and then you just start working away, you're able to clear a lot of material out without necessarily getting a Mini X back there to do it for you. The nice part is you dig, you scoop, and then you bring your material out to the road or your dump trailer, what have you. So the power is pretty good. It's 25 horsepower. You do run into certain limitations. You'll know because the engine will bog down once it's reached its maximum threshold, and it's the same exact thing when you're using the auger. The biggest problem with the auger are obstructions, and in my experience, any kind of rock that is creating a wedge type or friction with your auger bit is the biggest challenge. So you'll notice right away as you're spinning your auger, if you encounter that, power bogs down. Sometimes it does get through, but occasionally you'll have to clear those obstructions by hand or however you want to do it. Fuel consumption. This machine sips fuel. It has I want to say just shy of 25 liter tank. You can go all day long. You know, you just need one jerry can with you and you'll be perfectly fine for a full day's work. So it's pretty fuel efficient, smaller engine. In terms of fuel costs, how much is it going to cost you? A jerry can a day, maybe for 10 hours of operation. So it's fairly inexpensive to run this machine and the diesel associated to it. I want to talk about maintenance for a minute. So I believe there are 12 grease zerks on the machine. They are pretty easy to access. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, and 6, forgive me, on this side, 6 on the other side. And then there are a number of grease zerks easily accessible over here and where the bucket connects at the bottom here. So, after your 10, 15, 20 hours of use, you just throw the old grease gun on it, hit all your grease zerks, and off you go. You don't have to think about it anymore. And just another tip. So you have multiple grease points that I pointed out. Here, 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 and then you have pin grease points if you want. Now, when you're looking to change buckets or whatever, you want to clean your mounting plate, both on the bucket end and the skid steer end. Any little accumulation of dirt can kind of make it a real pain. So just be mindful of that. It just makes your life easy. Just every week or something like that, if you've used the machine, just scrape off any dirt, and just putting the machines on, putting the buckets on or any implement is just that much easier, especially when you're trying to drop the pins and they're not falling in place. Let's talk about just general maintenance that I've done on the machine. Now, oil changes, I've done them all myself. Very easy. There's a access panel right here. You just need an adjustable wrench. You take it off, you have access to your filter. It's just one of the spin-on filters, and you can just turn it on, twist a new one back on. Now what I do is when I take that port off, I create a little funnel with a piece of cardboard, or you can buy some flexible little devices to slip under your oil filter. And that way when you're screwing off the oil filter, you don't get a much of oil that spills down into the belly of the machine or on the ground. And you just kind of create a little spillway funnel into your catchment for your oil. So I found that strategy after a few oil changes that worked really well. Just be careful with your torque. You don't want to over torque it or under torque your oil filter. That can cause issues. The other maintenance point that I've addressed is the hydraulic oil filter. Now I'll bring you over to the machine and just show you where that is. So your hydraulic oil filter is this guy right over here, the white one. Really easy to spin off, and I didn't really find myself having any issues dripping hydraulic oil filter everywhere. When you do swap it out, do refill it prior to putting it back in, and then check your oil levels afterwards. Water separator, easy to get to, easy to see, and then I believe this is a fuel filter. I've done that one too. This is your hydraulic oil fill tank right here, and this is your diesel fuel tank right there. Now, I'm pretty handy, but I'm certainly not a mechanic, and this is kind of where I stop. I'll do the filter changes and the fluid changes, but beyond that, I'm not messing too much with the machine. And just a closer look at that port I mentioned earlier. Pop this guy off, and then you'll find the traditional spin-on oil filter back there. So I just want to show you what I was talking about for the engine oil filter. So I've since removed the panel here, and the oil filter is just a screw on back there. So when I do my oil change, as I was explaining, I just create a little funnel like that, longer one with a piece of cardboard or whatever, and then I unscrew my engine oil filter, and then the oil will just drip out, and I have a catch basin here. Okay, so let's talk about some of the issues I've had with the machine. Some of them come from my end, and some of them came from Kubota's end. So the main ones I've had on the Kubota are, I had the cooling fan at the back of the machine. It was making a funny noise as I was making contact with something as I was driving around. And what I ultimately was able to determine was that the fan was coming in contact with the plastic shroud surrounding it. No idea what the deal was with that, but I called Huckbones. We sent it over under warranty, and they sent me the machine back, and I haven't had any issues since. So the fan is at the back here, and the shroud is behind this this radiator. So that's the fan shroud issue that I was talking about. Software updates. So they brought the machine back in and they did a software update. Now, I didn't really notice much other than the primary on-off switch, the big red one, was now the toggle switch to turn the power on and off. Previously, there was a button in the middle that you would hit, and that's been eliminated. There wasn't really much else I noticed from that. Now, mistakes and things I learned from my end. So I did tip this machine. It is one of the most common issues, unfortunately, because it is so narrow. So you need to be really mindful of your ground, your level. And in my case, what I was doing was I was traveling with the arms up and the auger on the machine, and I was going over from a paved asphalt driveway onto some grass where I was going to go put a hole in. And I would say it was probably like a 4 or 5 inch change in the actual level from the asphalt to the ground. And I took it at a funny angle with my arms up, which I should have never done. I should have been traveling with my arms down with the auger off the machine, and took it at a straight angle. And ultimately, it didn't take much, tipped the machine over, and that happened right in front of the client. I was pretty embarrassed, but I overcame that. Now, the first thing you got to do is turn the machine off, because as I understand it from a field mechanic I know, if the engine oil starts entering the piston chamber, it can create all sorts of issues. So that's the number one thing, and that's the number one thing I coach my clients or customers to do, is if it does happen, and it will happen again inevitably, is to turn the machine off right away. Now, I had some help, brought some pickup trucks in, some straps, flipped the machine over within, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes of having tipped. Let all the fluids settle. I called a technician, and a mobile technician who came out, and I kind of followed along. What he did was he took out the glow plugs and then turned the machine over and verified that there was no oil in the piston chambers. And I guess what would happen is oil would spurt out of the glow plugs if there was. And ultimately there was no oil that came out. Reassembled everything. I would say the job took about an hour of hands-on work, and then his travel time, of course, and an oil change. So I believe Kubota recommends an oil change if you do tip. So we just changed the oil, left the original filter, made sure there was no oil in the piston chambers, and I was off to the races. Now, I did finish my job. Like I said, I was completely embarrassed, but that was just a mistake, and that can happen to anyone. So ultimately we were able to change the oil, get the machine right side up, and I was able to finish my job. So that one sucked, but it can happen. It will happen again. It may even happen to me. It'll probably happen to a customer. That's the biggest thing. Turn off the engine as it tips. I've heard rumors that Kubota may be coming out with some tip sensors where it may shut the engine off automatically, but I don't have a unit with that feature at this time. So the controls, I got used to them pretty quickly. They're not like the joysticks on the Bobcats by any means, but I found them pretty user-friendly, and the inputs are pretty good. They're very responsive, and I was able to do most of my precision work without any issues. So I don't have any complaints or feedback to give you on the controls. They didn't break. They were responsive the whole time. My throttle cable didn't snap on me, so it's been working just fine. And my auxiliary switches haven't given me any issues. So overall, the controls, I've had no issues. I got used to them just like you would driving a new car or playing a video game with a new remote or something like that. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the controls. Just some other thoughts on the machine. I didn't have any issues with blowing out any hydraulics. And, I pushed the machine to its limits in terms of like driving that bucket into dirt, into clay, driving that auger down and really working it, attempting to free up obstructions. So I pushed the limit on the machine, and I didn't have any hydraulic issues. I didn't get hung up on anything. There's been comments or feedback on these hydraulic hoses. I haven't really been in the bush, so I haven't had like a tree limb that would cause an issue, but so far they've been good. I've had no issues with them. I will say that the stand-on plate at the back, as you're operating the machine, it has a weight sensor, so it won't let you control the machine unless it feels weight. When you're digging around, sometimes when you're backing up and you've dug out a whole section of a backyard, for example, and you have like that mound of dirt, or you're at the perimeter of your excavation footprint, that plate, as you're backing up, if it makes contact with any dirt, it can actually fool the sensor into thinking that there's no one on it anymore because you're standing on, but the dirt is kind of driving underneath your foot plate, and then you kind of got to play around or get the machine going and get off that mound of dirt. So I just find that a little annoying, but it's a safety feature, and I can't really do much at this time that I know of. Now, the stand-on platform, as I was saying before, it's got a sensor. So if you're backing up and have a mound of dirt on the left side here as an example, This thing will sometimes, or will, go up even if you're standing on it, and it can fool the machine into thinking that there's no longer a person standing on it, and then you lose your controls because it just locks everything. So I ordered the skid steer with teeth, and I did that thinking that I would need the teeth to kind of dig in and to excavate using a skid steer rather than have a Mini X, but that's kind of changed now because I have a Mini X as well. I would say that if you were to order a machine, I'd recommend getting the cutting edge. So I've ordered a second machine that's coming in April 2025 from Huckabones, and I've asked them to provide that new machine to come with the cutting edge, and I've ordered a second cutting edge to put on this one, just to preserve the bucket integrity. So if you're looking at ordering a machine, I would say, in my opinion, don't bother with the teeth. You're not going to need them to drive in, to dig into your soil for the most part, and just get one with the normal cutting edge. If it doesn't work out for you, you can always get the teeth later. So would I buy another one? Well, as I've just said, yes, I have bought another one. Now, because I am a small outfit, I bought the identical machine, and I did that for a few reasons. If my machine goes down, I can swap it out. So that's the biggest thing, is just keeping the client happy. So I'll have the ability to do that. This is a relatively popular machine. It will rent homeowners, contractors who are looking to do their landscaping projects. They will absolutely rent these machines. Now, for the most part, my client base on this one was a long-term landscape contractor. And like I just said, I just want to have the ability to swap the machine out if his or hers goes down. And I also want to have a second machine on hand if I want to do my own jobs. So yes, I would recommend this machine. This particular one has been reliable. I will purchase the additional 12 months of warranty though, just in case, because I have heard of other machines go down, and of course, repair costs can be very expensive once they fall outside of warranty. I believe the standard coverage for this machine is 12 months or 1,000 hours. So I purchased another 12 months, and I'm not sure if it's an additional 1,000 hours of coverage, but that should be sufficient for any kind of kinks or whatever that may have happened at the factory. They will work themselves out by that time, I would imagine. And again, just peace of mind knowing that I have that coverage. I think it was somewhere in the realm of $600, and I'm okay with that. So would I buy another Kubota SCL1000? Yes, and as I've just said, I have ordered another one, which is coming in April. Now, there aren't that many to choose from in the market, so it's either you go to your Bobcat, which has been around the longest, I believe, and I have used that machine before. Great machine, and I'm talking about the Bobcat MT100 with the 44-inch wide tracks, which is nice and stable. 36 inches wide, again, not as stable, but you know what you're getting into, and you know that with this size, you're able to squeeze into a lot of areas where a traditional skid steer just can't get to. So as long as you're cautious, you'll be okay. Reliability, it's been good. I've had issues like any machine would have, and the service provided under warranty from Huckabones has been fantastic. They've picked up the machine, brought it back at no cost. They've sent the field technician to deal with the warranty stuff, no cost. And within 24 hours or less, I've had my machine back up and running, and I haven't had any issues with that. So overall, 350-hour review, good machine. Yes, they are expensive, that's for sure, but they are tools, so you want to be working them. Whether you're renting them or doing jobs yourself, you got to keep them rolling. And I don't really have any general complaints. What I'll do is I'll do a maybe 600-hour review, and if anything comes up, I'll be sure to share that or update this video. And same for the new unit that I'll be getting in April. So those are my general thoughts. Please leave any comments or questions, and I'll try and answer them in the comment section at the bottom. And again, yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next video.